Lunch, and thank you for joining us for these sessions straight after lunch. My name is Jenny Chu. I'm a procurement specialist from Asian Development Bank. I've been working on sustainable procurement for the last few years with my colleagues. And today the session is about what does sustainable procurement mean for you as suppliers, contractors, and consultants, especially in tendering and bidding. First up, I would like to invite our procurement director, Jesper Pedersen, on stage to help us set the scene on ADB's sustainable procurement journey. And then after that, we'll have some more case study and discussion with our other colleagues from the procurement department. Thanks, Jesper. Okay, so first question for you, Jesper, would be as a key champion on sustainable procurement in ADB, can you actually start by telling us what does sustainable procurement mean for ADB?
Well, I can try. Maybe I'll just start with what it means to me. So procurement is traditionally focused on compliance and governance. And that's still extremely important. To me, sustainable procurement provides an opportunity for the procurement function to actually help the projects reach their development objectives. So it's about, well, the theme for this BOF, quality, innovation, and impact. So it's really about how can procurement help make the development impacts that we're looking for. So for ADB, we have defined sustainable procurement as 4 sub-categories: environment, social, economic, and institutional. So it's really looking at the whole spectrum. Environment is quite broadly defined. It can be carbon reductions, pollution reduction, it can be waste management, etc. Social and economic is, of course, very closely connected. It can be vulnerable groups, gender targets. It can include local employment and how you involve communities in projects through the procurement process. And institutional is really the governance part of it. How do you ensure that institutions are strengthened through this process? So it's really about getting to the impact, and it can be achieved in many ways. We do it, so there's some policy requirements. Of course, ADB has their social safeguards, environmental and social safeguards. So that's one way to achieve some of these targets. Procurement goes above it. It's reflected in contracts, requirements, specifications. So we define what is the sustainability aspects of a contract. It's then reflected in the contract, of course, in terms of KPIs, etc. And where procurement actually plays a role is setting criteria. So when we go above the requirements that we have. So we have our social safeguards, environmental safeguards. There's a minimum standard. But how can we move the needle to go beyond through the procurement process? How can we award contractors, suppliers, consultants that can do more than the minimum requirements or what is in the specifications?
So you mentioned about a number of the 4 pillars and also a number of priorities like carbon and also local and social. I want to maybe zoom in a little bit more on the low carbon procurement. So what has ADB done with that to date? And looking forward for the audience in the room, what does it mean for consultants and contractors and the suppliers?
Yeah, so if we look, no, there's no slide. So we really look to how can, if you look at the construction sector, that is responsible for close to 35 to 40% of the world's CO2 emissions. And as ADB finance infrastructure projects across Asia and Pacific, how can we use basically our projects, our funding, our procurement to move the markets in a more carbon neutral or carbon reduction in terms of the construction process. So if we take cement, that's 8% of the world's emissions. Steel is also about 8%. So there's huge potential in lowering CO2 emissions through better carbon management in projects. Now, this is really complicated because how do you work with identifying where the possibilities are? It depends on regulatory requirements in different countries. How do you measure impact and what is actually available? So we have started a number of initiatives. We're working with countries to see to build their capacity in how to look at these things. We are working with the markets. We're doing market assessments in different countries to see what is actually available of low carbon products and materials, and how is that documented. So you have environmental product declarations, which is quite common in the EU and the US. In Asia Pacific region, not so much. I know, for example, in the Caucasus, there is one EPD, so it cannot really be used as a measurement, but you can still have at least proxies for it. So what we have done in a number of contracts across the region, Fiji, Thailand, India, Tajikistan, Armenia, we're building in carbon management as a requirement for the contractor. Not with any targets of reductions yet, but basically just to report on what is the carbon footprint of these contracts, and then leave it to the contractors if they can come up with solutions that can lower the carbon footprint. And of course the ambition is long term that it will become mainstreamed into all ADB finance contracts. But right now we're getting the data in to see what can actually be reported, how can that be used to inform both designs, the construction phase, but also work with market players in coming up with products that have less carbon footprints.
There's a number of things that's happening, and also linking back to some of the sessions early on yesterday and today, there's merit point criteria that was mentioned. How does these overlay with merit point criteria roll out?
Yep, so as our president announced yesterday, merit point criteria will become the standard and the mandatory way of evaluating this. We will allow that up to 25% of the points are allocated to sustainable procurement. So it's not a requirement or mandatory in any way, but for EAs, for our DMs, for our member states that wants to focus on sustainable procurement, 25% of the points on the technical score can be allocated to sustainable procurement, and that can cover all environmental, social, economic, and institutional aspects of it. And of course, it all depends on the contract, the country, what is the priorities. But basically, really give an incentive that contracts help, that not only the asset that is being procured, that is being built, is meeting the targets of the project, but also during the implementation of the asset, which can often take up to 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So there's huge potential in having greater development impact during the implementation of the project and not just at the end of the project when the asset has been constructed.
Okay, thanks very much, Jesper. I think we will pause here. Thank you so much for setting the scene. You're not off the hook yet. You'll come back later on for more questions and deep dive. For now, I would like to invite Jesper to go back on the front stage and invite my other colleagues, Chitoshi Izumi, Dawa Choki, and Nita Kumari, to share a little bit more about how different low carbon procurement has been applied. As you can see on the screen here, that there is what you buy, how you buy, where you buy it from, and how do you measure. So I would now invite Chito to first start up with his case study presentation, which is, as Jesper mentioned, some of the key market research on green construction material that is happening in the Mekong region. Over to you, Chito.
So thank you very much for joining. I'm Chito Izumi, coming from Bangkok, in charging for the procurement of the Mekong Delta, namely Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. And yes, just now already Jesper explained that we have so many 2, 3, 4 pillars of the sustainable procurement. And my part is concentrating only for this low carbon infrastructure. Based on that, last year, we have done that one TA, checking that what kind of material efficiency is available for the region of the Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. And we realized, for example, for Vietnam, we already have such a blended cement or steel from scrap. We already available in the market with reasonable, cheaper price, because Vietnam already have fly ash or slag sufficiently from the fire coal plant or steel plant. But on the other hand, for Cambodia and Laos, unfortunately, it is not yet to mature the market, and almost we cannot find such a green material in the field. And another aspect from Thailand, because recently I moved to Bangkok, and really understand already so many the green material, also the eco-labeling products. And recently they started to some pilot procurement utilizing such eco-labeling product. This is a understanding. And based on this survey for Vietnam, we started to next step technical assistance under the collaboration with the Ministry of Construction, namely developing the technical standard with the EPD adaptation, maybe a bit more detailed calculation methodology, we will raise into this TCVN Vietnamese standard to utilize by the contractor consultant. And maybe next year or next year, like Thailand already doing, maybe we launch to the eco-labeling system and product list, which one can be used in our low carbon procurement for the actual application to the project. This is the last slide from my side. As we understand, under such a stage or scenario, so many multi-stakeholder is joining. From left side, we surely have collaboration with MONLE, Environmental Department, and the Ministry of Construction for the material, and MOF for the procurement regulation, and also collaboration with the World Bank, communication with the GIZ, EU, and some calculation methodology we referring from the GCCA, and actual input necessary from contractor supplier. And finally, right side is maybe we will refer such a green building code, such as EDGE or LEED or Vietnamese Lotus. These things is necessary from the various stakeholder. I stop here, but our journey is just started, and continuously we try to achieve this low carbon procurement achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Chito. Before we move on to the next case study, just have a follow-up question for you. As you can see that there's market research, and Jesper also mentioned that ADB is supporting various countries in response to the growing interest in green construction in the construction material space. But again, linking it to our audience here, contractors, consultants, and suppliers, what are some of the opportunities and challenges do you see for the market to apply the green construction material on projects that financed by ADB to deliver quality infrastructure?
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah. So one thing we understand, observe through this material efficiency survey, what we realize that to the contractor supplier, they are keen to embark or they are keen to use such a green construction material in the market. However, honestly, they don't know how to apply or which evaluation method to be used or who is bear for the cost increase or decrease under this sustainable procurement. So therefore, we understand, firstly, the client side must tackle for making the direction of such eco-labeling or certification system and procurement regulation and so on. And automatically, after that, I believe contractor, supplier, consultant can follow, can excite to embark such a procedure. And finally, our market become more growing. This is understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's sort of like understanding the market during the procurement planning phase and also through market research and linking to evaluation methodology like merit point criteria. And then also I'm sure there will be consideration in linking it to contract construction stage reporting as well. Next up, I want to invite my other colleagues, Dawa Choki, procurement specialist working in the water and urban development space, to share with us some examples on its application in bidding requirement. Over to you, Dawa. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. So I'll be presenting a case study on low carbon cement, which is also called the blended cement in India. So, so I'm sure like most of you know what a low carbon cement means. So it is a cement which is produced by using alternative materials like fly ash and slag, and it has lower environmental impacts compared to the ordinary Portland cement. So as you can see in the slide, in India, there are multiple suppliers of low carbon cement and which are all Green Pro certified. So the most popular low carbon cement in India are the composite cement, the Portland slag cement, PSC, and the Portland pozzolana cement. The low carbon cement, particularly the Portland pozzolana cement, was used in this our Sikkim Integrated Urban Development Project. So the project cost is 226 million USD. The implementing agency is Urban Development Department under the government of Sikkim. So some of the project components were water supply, sewerage and sanitation, transit hubs, community complex, and other civil structures. So spread across 7 towns in Sikkim. So the towns in Sikkim are highlighted in red color, but I think it's not very visible. So let me just mention it here. So the towns were Gangtok, Mangan, Pakyong, Sikkim, Rangpo, Soreng, and Gelshing. So the use of low carbon cement in this project was made mandatory. And it was stipulated in the section 6 of the bidding document, which is the employer's requirement. And the use of low carbon cement throughout the project was monitored and reported through the quarterly progress report, which is prepared by the project management and supervision firm for this project. And now talking about the benefits the low carbon cement has for this project. So estimated quantity of about 56,000 tons of low carbon cement was used for this project, so which will help in reducing the carbon emission by 15,400 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, and which amounts to climate mitigation finance of about 10.6 million USD. So I will stop here and take some questions. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dawa. So you talk about the examples in India through specification. I know you've worked in other countries as well. So can you tell us a little bit about how it's going in the other countries that you work on?
So Sikkim is not the first state in India. So we have used low carbon cement already in other states in India, in urban and water sector, because I'm working handling urban and water projects in South Asia. So we have piloted the use of the low carbon cement in one project in Bangladesh, and we are trying to roll out in other projects as well. The market availability of low carbon cement in Bangladesh is similar to India, and the application and the contracting modality that we use for this Bangladesh project is also similar to the Sikkim case study I presented earlier. So during the market research, it was interesting to note that in Bangladesh, there are already many structures that were constructed using the low carbon cement, such as the Padma Bridge, Rupur nuclear power plant, and the Dhaka MRT system.
I'm sure, as Chito mentioned, there's growing interest and availability in the market in Mekong region and other regions that ADB support market research on as well. So we'll probably see more and more of this project requiring the consideration of green construction material. Your case study, Dawa, mentioned specification, which is in section 6 of the bidding document. What will be some of the other way do you see low carbon construction material being reflected in a bidding process?
So in Bangladesh and India, since the market availability is there, so we made it mandatory. But I think for other economies or countries where the market availability will be limited, so I think it's a good opportunity to use the merit point criteria as the tool for evaluation to score higher technical points for the bidders who proposes to use green construction materials like the low carbon cement.
Thank you, Dawa. Now I would like to invite my other colleagues, Anita Kumari from Indian Resident Mission. Anita is Associate Project Officer in Procurement, and she will share with us a case study on measuring the benefit and impact of using construction material.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Let me take you all to the India's beautiful state, Gujarat. We have heard a lot about the how to measure the CO2 reduction, but we have developed the tool how to measure the CO2 and what is the methodology to be used here. For that, in Gujarat, ADB has funded a project for the construction of FinTech Institute for Innovation and Research. Under this project, the 32-story buildings is supposed to be constructed, and for this 32-story building, we know before the lights are on the building, COD is already hidden. And how to measure the CO2, we have developed the tool, and I will going to explain you how did we do and what methodology we have used it. So how did we do? So as you all know, there are 4 stages of the project life cycle. First is product stage, construction stage, and use stage, and end of life cycle stage. Since the works are ongoing, and now the construction is ongoing in the FinTech city, the works has happened till foundation stage. We have focused our methodology only for the 2 stages, product stage and construction stage. And To start this, first of all, we did extensive stakeholder consultation with the contractor and the EAs, make them aware what is the requirement, how the data to be collected. We did the market scanning also, the availability of EPDs by the suppliers, as well as we also see the online tools of emission standard, because in India it is not mandatory to provide the EPDs for all the materials. So wherever the EPDs were not available, we have done the proxy and we have used the emission standard provided EC3 platform. And for the transport stage, we have done there are 4 methods, and we have used the most correct method is the actual fuel consumption, and that method gives the actual result. So we have run through all the methods, but when we came across the actual fuel consumption was given the best result. And this methodology we have done for the span of 7 months, and I will just explain how the tool looks like. So this is the snapshot of the tool. This is a simple automated tool. You have to just quantify the data, which what you can quantify can be measured. So most important thing, you have to have the inventory, how much is the material being consumed. That inventory is very important. That we have done. We worked very closely with the contractor and consultant. We have the inventory of the data consumed, and we have the emission factor we have taken from the EC3 platform, from EPDs wherever available, and wherever EPD was not available, we have done the proxy. And for the construction stage, we have done the fuel-based method, and we have done the distance-based also. There is another method, spend time-based, that is actual dollar spend. You can do the calculation, but this was not very accurate in the case of India. This is the inventory what I was talking. You can see the gray bar, the total BOQ given by the contractor at the time of bid, when they submitted the bid, and the orange bar, what are the consumption. Since the work is just happening and work has happened till foundation stage, the orange bar is in the lower side. As long as the work will progress, orange will also increase. And what we found from what was the result and what is the outcome of this study. When we did this, we found that embedded carbon, which was hidden, was 417 kg CO2 emission per square meter. The area of this building was 90,000 square meter. So it was a 417 kg CO2 emission was there, which was slightly higher in this case of the standard of Denmark's, which we have taken the benchmark of Denmark's WCA standard, because we don't have our own standard. And for transport, the initial value when we have used the EC3 indicator, default value, it was 67. But when we took the actual fuel consumption, and we were amazed to see it was only 9 kg CO2 emission. So actual data really matters. So learning, this is the learning, and what did we achieve from this pilot? So this is a calculation, and how to calculate. After doing extensive study, we came to know that securing EPD is essential for the accurate result. Without EPD, EC3 platform won't give you the accurate result. And periodic reporting and documentation of material consumption is also the key. Unless you have the data, you can't get the real results. And the reconciliation between BOQ and actual use of the quantity is need for the consistency. And when we saw in that, we had focused only on cement and steel. And as you know, in the construction site, cement and steel in India especially dominate embedded carbon emission, and there we need the innovation. Low carbon products are needed, and that is a need of the hour. And what will we do from this study? You would have seen you have done the calculators, we have done the calculation, what is going to do with this? So as you know, this is this has to be useful for the across ADB portfolio, maybe in future through integration into digital solution. Then only once we can measure how much CO2 is going to emit from the any construction activity, then only we can see how we can going to use and what type of innovation and design can be changed. And expand the data collection in all the activity, all the materials and all the routes and distance, then you will get the accurate. Thank you. And once we have done in Gujarat, we can do it anywhere else, and this is the real power of proof of concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. And now your follow-up question will be, that's a very interesting pilot proof and the methodology that can be used to measure the embodied carbon in the construction stage, comparing that with the estimate in the bidding stage. Again, what does that mean and what is the significance of this pilot potentially for the audience in the room, the consultants and the contractors?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. As you know, this type of requirement is going to be asked day by day, as Chito mentioned, and as Jesperson also was mentioning, this will be the requirement in future. Once the contractors will be aware the type of data is being asked, how to measure it, it will be useful for them to prepare for future requirement. And this is also once you can have the data only, you can measure the CO2 emission, and that will be actually helpful in the MPC and weighted criteria. When we are doing, we can able to measure and whether we are claiming CO2 reduction is happening or not. That through this tool, we are able to measure it and say whether whatever was written in methodology is correct or not. So that will give us the real value. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anita. I think we're just running a little bit behind schedule, but I think just also want to maybe highlight some of the other aspects of environmental sustainability consideration. Just a quick question for Dawa. You talk about specification and MPC. How do you see these being applied in other environmental consideration?
So I think the other environmental consideration would be, I personally believe in 3 principles: buy less, buy better, and use longer, which is also, I think, one of the key aspects of the UN Global Plastic Treaty. So one way is like we should be prioritizing the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, and recycling over disposal. So we have to think twice whether you want to build a new building or you want to remodel an old building. So second is requiring the bidders to submit the construction and demolition waste management plan in their bids. And we can also include, because O&M is also a sustainability measure, we can include O&M considerations in our specifications of the bidding document and also use that for evaluation. And fourth would be, I think, again, going back to merit point criteria, using MPC as an evaluation tool to score the bidders' waste minimization or circularity strategies. And last but not the least, I think we should be encouraging the use of digital tools. For example, use of EGP for sourcing and tendering, use for using online contracts management system during the construction phase, and use of SCADA for O&M and asset management. Thank you.
No, thanks. So here you go. These are some of the potential requirements that you might be see popping up in various ADB finance project tender. You talk about O&M consideration, and yesterday the new collaborative O&M contract model was launched at the BOF. I know that there's been already some cases of O&M projects apply in India already. So Anita, can you tell us what some of the examples of that might be?
Yeah, I can tell you one of the project I was personally involved. The project was in Karnataka 24/7 water supply. It is for the Davangere, Baidigi and Haryana districts of Karnataka. And that project has been successfully implemented. The unique design of that project was having in contract, that was 4 phases has been built. First was the design validation, and after that construction and transition and operation and maintenance. In this project, this was not the contractor was supposed only to lay the pipeline. Contractor was supposed to prepare the O&M, and they were supposed to do the database, customer database, tariff collection, and this project was not only infrastructure project, it was like a proper service delivery project, and there the contract was able to achieve 24/7 water supply in the district which I mentioned, and very successful, and this was inbuilt in the contract through the performance-based indicator. Thank you.
So that's another the way how sustainable procurement is being reflected, and by responding to that requirement in the contract modality, again, you can respond to the tendering requirement accordingly. We have talked quite a lot about construction stage, bidding, and tendering requirement. I want to maybe ask the last question to Chito on what are some of the challenge and opportunity do you see for consultant in responding to these requirements in relation to like the area that Dawa mentioned, waste minimization, circularity, and operations and maintenance considerations.
Thank you, Jenny. That long time ago, I was a consultant, and I believe under such a situation, consultant has a very big opportunity to achieve the innovative solution, because consultant in charge early stage for the conceptual design or feasibility design. So he has freedom to propose maybe fundamentally what kind of material use or what kind of construction methodology. And based on his direction, contractor or supplier will start for the procurement proposal in their bidding stage. And but one more thing also want to point is a good question came from the Volkan Koksan, that under such a sustainability and quality, reduce a lifetime cost, but to increase in the initial investment, maybe. So this is a very good point. And because as I say, my survey in Vietnam, luckily that such a blended cement or blast furnace concrete is cheaper or similar price of the usual concrete. And also I heard from Dawa that Bangladesh also available such a material reasonable price. So I also have a question. In case of our such a sustainable material proposal is a higher price than the usual material, how client or how we tackle this situation? Sorry, I have a question now. Because my client also a bit too, how can I say, they are not happy for such a situation.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that we can talk about in terms of what is the true cost of the of doing a project. There's the capex cost, and also there's the operation and maintenance cost, but there's also the cost of dealing with the resultant impact in the environment as well. And I'm sure if there's any economists, advisors in the room, they probably were better positioned to talk about that point. But thank you very much for raising that salient point in consideration as well. And again, linking it to merit point criteria, there is the quality aspect, where Jesper mentioned 25% may be allocated to sustainability to reward such consideration, balancing with the cost component. Thank you so much, Chito, Dawa, and Anita for sharing your case study. I would like to invite you back on the stage. And I mentioned that Jesper is not off the hook, so now I would like to get him back on the stage to also share with us a little bit about moving beyond green. There's 4 pillars in sustainable procurement. There's also social angle in in which that there is a lot of focus now on the local consideration. So Jesper, again, in line with these are the priority of sustainable procurement, what are some of the current initiatives that, or upcoming initiatives that ADB is doing and looking into in relation to local content and local participation?
Yes, and I think our president mentioned it in his opening speech yesterday. Starting from 1st of January, we will require minimum 50% of the labor is locally sourced on all internationally advertised contracts. And this is, of course, to ensure that the economic benefits of the investment also benefits the local communities, local labor, and ensures in all countries that the local labor force is utilized, is developed. So this is a bare minimum. In many countries, there is more than 50% of the workforce is already local, and it will not be a challenge to meet that requirement. So we are also, in addition to that, we are allowing up to 15% of the points, in merit points, to go for additional measurements to strengthen local labor. That can either be setting a higher percentage than 50. It can be requiring that the skilled labor, for example, has a certain amount of local participation. It can be training programs, taking on apprenticeship as part of the contract for local labor, so that when the contract is over, the local communities, the local area actually has a educated workforce that can be used in future contracts. So it's really about trying to see how we can make sure that the investments in infrastructure benefits the local communities, the national economy, and that money is not just flowing out of the country immediately. So it is, again, it's about impact. What is the development impact on the investments that ADB finances? And we have done a number of projects. We've also cooperating with GIZ on what is called BuildProc. Oh no, not BuildProc. What is?
Build for Skills.
Build for Skills. There it is. So basically, a way of making sure that you build up the skills of local labor during the contract. And maybe I'll just respond a little bit to Chito's question about the cost of it. So there's different ways of looking at this. For example, Build for Skills. We had a case in Mongolia where this was used, where local contractors was required to take in apprentices, and more than I think 100 people were upskilled for very, very minimal cost to the contract value. So there's huge potential, and as Chito also mentioned himself, a lot of these greener materials is not more expensive. It is at the same price point as traditional. One of the barriers often is the fear of the strength of materials. Does green cement have the same strength as traditional Portland cement? Is often a greater barrier than the price point. So there is, of course, a need both in the social, on social sustainability and procurement, it's to look at what are the benefits. So even if there is a slight increase in cost, the economic benefits to the country and to the community is much, much greater than that additional investment. When it comes to greener products, it is often at the same or lower price point, but it's about knowledge. It's about standards, so that public sector agencies that are responsible for these projects have comfort that it will actually meet the quality standards that they need. So there we are really reliant on suppliers, on contractors and consultants to come up with innovative proposals and help provide the evidence that this actually will work and it works, and give the comfort to public agencies in DMCs where maybe it hasn't been tried. So there's a lot of aspects to it. I mean, and it is important to me that economic sustainability, we cannot just spend money just for the sake of being green. That's not going to be sustainable in the long run. So it is about working with the market to find solutions, and by creating the demand, the price will also be competitive.
Thank you very much. So I think we will have maybe another 10 to 12 minutes or so to open the floor up. I would like to invite Chito, Dawa, and Inter back on the stage to join Jesper in response to some of the questions. If colleagues at the back of the room can put up our last slide, please. I think there's some issue with the clicker. If you can help with that, that would be much appreciated. So while our colleagues is doing that, what you see on the slide, as mentioned by Jesper, it takes a village, and also that was a key message that Chito mentioned in his slide. We need client and also supplier to all do the part, consultant and contractors. We also very much like to invite your feedback to share with us what's your comment and suggestions in relation to utilizing sustainable requirement, overlaying with specification, merit point criteria to enhance the sustainability outcome in delivering quality infrastructures in Asia and Pacific region. So there is a QR code there that you can submit your comment so that we can take into account as we develop our roll out in this initiative further. So thank you. You see the slide there now. I think there was a question that is submitted by Richard that in the Pacific, maybe that's a question for Jesper. It seems to be relating to the local angle. In the Pacific with smaller nation, would consideration of Pacific nation contributing I presume their resource other than just hosting the infrastructures be a particular consideration in selecting local and social related sustainable procurement requirement in the project's evaluation process?
Yes, so Pacific is of course a unique region, small island development states, and here we have a particular focus on developing local capacities, and so going forward this will be incorporated, I think, in all tenders for the Pacific. How can local capacities be utilized? How can they be developed? And perhaps also when we say 50% of the labor should be local, we normally refer to local as national. In the Pacific, we may consider that to be regional. In some countries, it will not be possible, basically, to get enough labor from one particular country. But if we look at it from a regional perspective, it opens up some possibilities. And it is the Pacific is really an area where we will have a lot of emphasis on building local capacities, local skills, to make sure that there are the economic opportunities in the countries in the Pacific.
Thanks for that. I think there's also more technical questions in relation to the construction material part. So the market research that is undertaken in Mekong and also in some of the other countries will be published in a portal called Sustainable Procurement Resource Hub that is already launched last year by ADB in collaboration with other MDBs. So you can find the report from those market study there for further review. Now, I think that's all the questions that we have received online through Event Air. And now I'd like to turn the floor, turn it to the audience on the floor to invite anyone who want to share their experience as a business in responding to sustainable procurement requirement, in tendering or in delivery of projects. So if you're happy or interested in sharing your comment and experience, please go to one of the mic in the room and you can ask questions or share your experience. There is one in the back, gentleman raising a hand.
Good afternoon. I'm Loy Agawili. I was just piqued with the introduction of the low carbon cement, because in the Philippines we've got a lot of projects of government, especially in housing, and there is a shortage of cement in the Philippines. We've got also the railway projects, which requires a lot of cement. But basically, if you go to housing, even San Miguel Corporation have 7 lines application approval with the BOI, and they haven't been approved. So I was just thinking, if we could put up a cement plant using low carbon, can we just replicate the same project and get the same load? And I'll just use a government agency to apply, because apparently projects have to be applied for by government agencies. Could we do that?
Well, it's a little bit outside the scope of what we do on the sovereign side of ADB. I think it is definitely worth looking at how can, so it's a challenge, it has been a challenge in the Philippines with cement supply for a long time, right? It's been shipped from Vietnam sometimes, which is quite expensive way of getting cement. It's definitely worth looking into what incentives can be made to get the industry up here, and if new factories is coming on board, it should definitely focus on low carbon cement. But this is more for our PSOD side of business to look into. So I will not go into any more details than that.
If I may add that I'm not a concrete specialist, but I believe such a blended cement or this mixture from the fly ash or slag, technically we also should investigate. Maybe such a massive foundation or large structure may be suitable immediately to apply this low carbon cement. But thinner structure or high strength structure requirement, at that time maybe not so much advantage or suitability to apply the low carbon cement. So maybe technically point of view, also we should look into it, whether it is suitable to apply or not suitable to apply. Thank you.
I think there's another gentleman here wanting to share his view. Just before we get to that, as yes, we mentioned that ADB also has a department that is working with private sector's development. And indeed, there is quite a lot of initiative in emerging industrial decarbonization. So for example, in Pacific, there's a few technical assistants engaging advisory service in undertaking feasibility study of green transition of local cement production plant. So there's definitely a lot of potential consulting opportunity emerging in this space, which you can access in the consultant management system in ADB. Over to you for your comment, please.
Yeah, thank you. This is Imad Abu Sulaiman with Global Development Catalyst. The question that I have is related to certain countries don't have regulations or standards, or sometimes they are silent, the regulations and standards about the use of recycled material in road or in other construction. So I think you mentioned Denmark, you use standards from Denmark. In your research in some of these countries, did you come up with a standard or with a limitation that can be used for countries like that? And can you share this with us so we can use it in other countries?
Well, this is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to green materials in general. There are no global standards. Each country and some countries have standards. India, for example, some countries doesn't have. We work with countries both on projects, but also at the regulatory side. So dialogue with countries on if they want to promote greener materials in the construction sector, what is required, and that is looking at standards. Unfortunately, we cannot just import a standard, right, from another country into a member state. They have to adopt it, etc. We can provide technical assistance, looking at what are the different options. So that is unfortunately very complicated and will take some time before that is all in place. As I said, EPDs, right, environmental product declarations, even is not commonly used in Asia and Pacific yet.
I think that's some of the work that Chito is doing in Mekong as well.
That's
so
right.
over to him.
So yeah, just to for the Lao, interestingly that they will start some green public procurement guideline. These things they will formally government approve maybe on 9th of October. There is a workshop there. And this activity is a GIZ. For 5 years they are tackling for Lao PDF to establish such a standard or guideline. And also ADB supporting this one. And the content is quite similar or import from the Thailand, because GIZ is very strong for such a green issue in Thailand. So when we look into this guideline, quite similar to the Thailand guideline, and this one is now Lao will embark after the 9th of October this year. So this is maybe the good sample to expand or enhancement of the Mekong Delta area. Thank you.
And I think also linking to Chito's comment earlier on, consultants do have a huge role to play, especially in the procurement planning phase of the project, to look into market availability, taxonomy in the country and requirement in the country to have that smart alignment in identifying, specifying, providing point scoring in the use of green construction material. So I think we only have 1 more minute to move on to the next questions. Any last, okay, over to you. Last comment, and we will conclude the sessions.
Hi, I'm Abhik from RV Engineering Consultants. When you talk of sustainable procurement, coming to the issue of procurement of consultants, now, would you, going into the future, look into criteria where consultants has, whether, the consultant to be selected has implemented certain, green construction technologies, or if there are any certifications that are required of a consultant. That typically we have these, OHS, OSS certification and all that. So in terms of procurement of consultants, what, criteria do you want to, establish going forward? Thank you.
So right now we're not looking at any requirements for consultants in general. On specific assignments, of course, there might be requirements that you have experience in some green technologies, or because if your job is either to help with the design of something or feasibility studies, etc., there might be some requirements that you have experience, or at least that it will be an advantage to have experience in certain areas. But we're not at a stage where we will require that, for example, that you have some kind of we're not doing what the EU is doing, where you're required to report on your CO2 emissions as a firm. We're not planning to do anything like that. So that's, before we stop, I would actually also just like to highlight what Jenny mentioned, or do a little bit of a commercial here. The Sustainable Procurement Hub that we have created together with other MDBs is a really good resource to find out more on what MDBs are doing. Some of the studies, market studies, will be there. We have a number of country profiles, so you can actually go in and see what is different countries doing in sustainable procurement. Is there regulatory framework? Is there standards? What is countries doing? So it's a really good resource to know more about sustainable procurement in the Asia and Pacific, and we hope to expand it also. There's also case studies, etc.
If I may add, I also have no experience of how to select such a consultant, but maybe possibility is in case the project have a target of the low carbon infrastructure or something, when we are going to select the consultant, maybe TOR, terms of reference, will specify the project is a targeting of the blah, blah, blah. So please, consultant, submit your technical proposal aiming A, B, C, D, E, or something. These RFP or TOR can be provided, number one. Number two is even if contractors procurement, we have quite often have design and build, D&B procurement. So under the D&B, design and build contract, under such a procurement, maybe we will require to the contractor and the consultant to propose your submission, including the how low carbon infrastructure or low carbon structure can be achieved. These requirements, under the employer's requirement, we may specify to submit such a technical proposal. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I think our time is up. I see that our colleagues for the next session is already at the back. For questions like this and suggestions on how ADB can further incorporate sustainable procurement requirement in our procurement system, be it for consultant, contractors, or suppliers, please make use of the QR code that was shown in the slide, which you can access afterward in the event website. Now let's just conclude the event, and also if you can join me to thank our panel speakers, Jesper, Chito, Anita, and Dawa. Thanks so much.